you. So I think we will get started and people can keep trickling in, but welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the inaugural session of the Balance Section Speed Idea Sharing series on promoting well-being in law school. And to those of you who have come through on the other side of graduation, congratulations. I'm jealous. To those of you who are still, powering through, Godspeed and hang in there. We'll all be in summer soon, so that's great. And I'm delighted to see a bunch of familiar faces and names here, but for those of you who I haven't met yet, I am Jordana Confino, and I am the Director of Professionalism at Fordham Law School and co-chair of the AALS Balance Section's General Programming Committee. And on behalf of myself and my fellow committee members and section members, I am really thrilled to welcome all of you to this session and this series. And I just have to say that it is so heartening and exciting to see so many people showing up for a Zoom after this year and a half of nonstop Zooms, and in particular, so many people that are here specifically to talk about our shared interest in promoting our students' well-being. So thank you for joining us. And since this is the first session, before we dive into the program, I'll just say a quick word about the broader series and how it will work. And really, the series grew out of our recognition that while there's obviously no question that the past year and a quarter now has been unprecedentedly challenging for all of us, there have been a few silver linings of this pandemic. And one of them, I think, has really been that in shining a very, very bright spotlight on the dire nature of the mental health and well-beings that our law students and really all of us and all members of the legal education and legal profession communities are facing, is that it's prompted many schools to amplify their efforts in this area, building on the lawyer and law student well-being movement that had begun to take place in the years leading up to the pandemic. And while, in fact, while the ABA COLAP Law School Assistance Committee, and hello to my friends from that committee who I see here, while we did a comprehensive survey of law school well-being initiatives in 2018, and I'll post the link to the article reporting on those findings, there really has been an explosion of progress and innovation in this area since that time, with law schools from all across the country implementing a whole host of different approaches to fostering well-being within their law schools, whether it's through co-curricular programs or initiatives, new services or resources, or through academic offerings or pedagogical strategies. And so the goal of this series is to really help facilitate the broadest possible sharing of all of these new ideas and best practices so that as many schools as possible can implement them and take advantage of them. So this series will consist of 6 sessions, the first of which is now, and each of which is going to be focused on a slightly different topic or mode of promoting well-being. And will feature presentations, brief presentations by 3 to 6 presenters, followed by Q&A and discussion. And in a minute, I will post the full schedule of the 5 remaining sessions, as well as the registration links in the chat. And I'll just note that the registration link just for our next session, which is June 3rd, has changed. So just take note of that link. It's not the one that was provided in the earlier emails. And then finally, before I turn it over to Jill Engel, my fabulous co-chair of the General Programming Committee, who will be moderating today, I just want to say that since we have only 3 presenters for this session, we'll probably have more time than usual left at the end. And so we are hoping to, once we're done with the Q&A with our presenters, open it up to any of you in the audience who have your own approaches to cultivating well-being days and spaces, which is the topic for today's session, to share for a minute or two at the end. So I just wanted to plant that seed. So as you listen to our presenters and the discussion, you can think about whether you want to chime in at the end to share an idea of your own. And so with that, I will turn it over to Jill to introduce our speakers.
Thanks, Jordana. So we will be getting started with Chad. And Chad, I try to nail your name, but you correct me if I'm wrong today. Chad Norwell. Chad is a clinical professor of law at Arizona State. And Chad today will be presenting on Mindful Monday, 2 minutes of Zen and 11 minutes of mindful meditation.
Thanks, Jill, and thanks to both Jill and Jordana for putting this together, and everyone for joining. I think we can all agree, as Jordana indicated, that we really, not only our students, but all of us need a little bit of well-being during these times. So just very quickly, I just want to let everybody know that I would love to have video, and you can show my video. That is my office, but I am not there, and I'm having some internet problems, so I'm going through my office connection remotely, and therefore we're not going to freeze. So instead of showing my office when I'm not there, I'm just going to be doing this. So this is our Mindful Mondays. This is an outgrowth of something I've been doing for the last 15 plus years. Every class that I have, I end with what I call a 2 minutes of Zen. 2 minutes of Zen is a combination of neuroscience, mindfulness, learning theory, life tips. And about 4 years ago, a bunch of my students came to me and said, we, based on this 2 minutes of Zen, want to start Zen Law Student Association. And I said, that sounds great. And they said, we want you to be the faculty advisor. And I said, that sounds great. And they said, we want you to hold weekly meetings talking about 2 minutes of Zen and doing guided meditation. And I said, that sounds also great, but maybe we could do it every other week, maybe twice a month instead. So we are doing that. We've been doing it the last 3+ years. It's called Mindful Mondays. And I start with a 2 minute Zen topic, and we go over it. It's really not 2 minutes. It's really a little bit longer, 5, maybe 10 minutes. And then we have questions about that topic. I try and gear the topics toward things that students obviously are interested in. And then we do a guided meditation. So just to give you kind of a feel for this, I'm just going to run down. I have about 50 different topics over the years that I've come across. I'm just going to read off a couple of them that I talk about that kind of leads us into the meditation. Some of the 2 minutes of Zen topics, not only for my class, but for our Mindful Mondays gatherings: stress, the power of your breath, what I call our energetic ecosystem. I talk about diet, exercise, sleep, thoughts, gratitude, power of smiling. I talk a little bit about growth mindset versus fixed mindset, procrastination, grounding, which is being in nature and the benefits of that, your willpower, a little bit of technology, social media, also socialization, power poses. Talk a little bit about memory, something I call 29 gifts, the gift of giving, really giving to yourself when you're giving, the Zen of relationships, the Zen of studying, and what I call the most important conversations you have, which is the conversation you have with yourself or your internal dialogue. So all of those I ground in a couple things. One, research. I found that if we say, hey, we're going to have a meditation, not as many people show up. But if we say we're going to talk about some 2 minutes of Zen and some neuroscience and research, it's going to help you, and then we're going to meditate, more people will in fact show up. So everything that I just mentioned, I ran through the list and there are more, everything that I talk about is grounded in some research, whether it be neuroscience or just various studies that we have. And the other thing that I try and couch all of these 2 minutes of Zen in is what I call, the key to success and happiness. And that is very, very easy: awareness and discipline. So have awareness of what does not serve you and have the discipline to change it. It's one of my mantras I talk about almost every class, especially for my 1Ls. And again, it's very, very simple, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's easy, right? So have awareness of what does not serve you and have the discipline to change it. And I kind of come back to that, and everything that I talk about in the 2 minutes of Zen, I kind of relate back to that awareness and discipline. And that's kind of the 2 minutes of Zen. We have about 40 students that usually show up. We usually have 5 to 8 or 9 either staff or faculty that show up. We usually have tea. There's a little bit of a budget for our Zen Law Student Association. And, the first meeting of the year, when we're just talking about what's going to happen, the students usually have some kind of vegetarian sushi in addition to the tea and some water. And I just kind of talk about the different topics that I'm going to be talking about. We sit in a circle, I talk about the 2 minutes of Zen, and then I open it up for questions. And based on those topics, students have various questions that we discuss, and then we kind of delve into our meditation after that. And really, it's about 20 minutes at this point that we've gone and done this. We do it over the lunch hour to start off our week so that most people have some time over the lunch hour. And then we sit in our circle and we talk about meditation. Every session that I do, because there's always new people coming to the session, word of mouth obviously gets around. I have my standard mantra about the benefits of meditation practice, even just a few minutes a day. Research has shown that meditation can improve mood, focus, your overall resilience, long-term health, and, pay attention, law students, reduce your stress. I think I've said that like 1,000 times at this point now. But wait, there's more. And this really, hopefully gets some of the people. It's also been shown to improve your productivity and have a positive impact on your relationships. And I tell them that, I'll send them articles I've written if they want to have more, but, for now, just kind of trust me that, meditation can do all this. And then I kind of delve into a different appeal for people, and that is, the brain's like a muscle. That's what neuroscience are telling us now. The brain's like a muscle. And I say, we need downtime to grow, right? So for example, if you wanted to have great biceps, like I really just want big biceps, sculpted biceps, you wouldn't go to the gym every single day and work on your biceps because you need downtime to grow. And that's the same thing with your brain. So our brain, especially in law school, we're constantly using our brain. Our brain just never shuts off. And so what do we need? We need downtime. And, students always say, I don't have time. And my response to that is always, if you don't think you have 5 minutes to meditate, then you probably need 10 minutes to meditate, right? The time to relax is when you think you have no time to relax. And so I really try and instill that in them, that this is overall going to benefit you just by taking 5 minutes a day out to meditate. And then we go into a little bit of just the how-tos. And I've been meditating for about 20 years, and I certainly am not an expert. And I tell them I still, almost daily struggle with, shutting off my brain. But just to give them a little bit of guidance as to, the quote unquote how-to. There's no wrong way to meditate. I just tell them, just be comfortable, whether you're sitting, lying down, whatever it might be, close your eyes and just breathe. That's it. Now you're meditating. That's all you have to do. And the other big thing that, I've really, found to be helpful for me is to set a timer so that you're not thinking, okay, am I done now? Is this over? Right? So you have to think about that. I pick 11 minutes when we do our 11-minute meditation. And I tell them, the biggest thing is, your thoughts will come. Don't fight them, right? That's fine. Just try to practice seeing the thought, acknowledging the thought, and then try to practice letting that thought go. And I really tell them that, the more you do this, the more you're training your brain to focus. We know this under fMRI, especially with experienced meditators, right? That's what we want. We want to improve our focus, which, we're losing our attention span as more technology bombards us. So I say, every time you meditate, you're really helping your law school performance in ways that you don't even know. And just focus on your breath and let that go, and breathe in positivity and breathe out stress. Visualize stress going out. And that's all we're doing with this meditation. The other thing that I do when we start is I like to start with what I call a 1-minute gratitude meditation. So I kind of explain, at least as it was explained to me many, many years ago by a shaman that I used to see, is that, really meditation isn't necessarily about clearing your mind into nothingness, right? Really, you can think of meditation as a singular focus. So some people meditate and have a mantra. They repeat the same word over and over. Some people focus on one thing, the breath, because that's easy, right? So focus on one thing. So I say, one thing that we can do that's going to raise our vibration, our frequency, is to just focus on things that you're thankful for, because that really grounds us. So when we start our 11 minutes of meditation, I'll have the secretary of the Zen Law Student Association, literally set a timer for 11 minutes. And I'll say, okay, for the first minute, we're going to close our eyes, and I just want you to have 1 minute of gratitude. Because in essence, that's what you're doing with the gratitude, is thinking about one thing. That one thing, hopefully, is going to be many things, but the one thing is gratitude. That's all I'm doing right now, is thinking about that. And then, after that, we kind of talk about, how their vibration may or may not have been raised by that 1 minute gratitude. So I do, a little example most times, and I say I'm so thankful for, my family, my friends, my son, my job, my health, my car, and just all the different things that we can be thankful for that that we have in our lives. And it really, thankful for being in law school. Right? Thankful for the ability to read, when we're reading and we're thinking, oh, I got to read again. Well, some people can't do that. That's something that we take for granted that other people wouldn't if they lost their ability to see. So we do that. And I tell them just, kind of about a minute, just think about that, have gratitude, and that will kind of get you in that mindset of being able to just, breathe and just kind of focus on your breath. And we get a lot of repeat clients, I'll tell them, and they tell their friends, and we have other people come in. And then after the 11 minutes goes off, we kind of reconvene, and I ask if anyone would like to, share any thoughts about the meditation, or just kind of what they experienced. And usually there are people who share and talk about, it wasn't as hard as I thought, or oftentimes it'll be, it was really hard. I had having these thoughts. I'm like, that's not a bad thing. And plus, those thoughts give you insight into the things that are in the recesses of your mind. So it's really, benefiting you on all levels. So that is our Mindful Mondays from our Zen Law Student Association. I'm not going to lie and say that the pandemic has helped. It definitely is not. Our attendance has gone down, and I think it's just people thinking it's really hard to meditate when we're on Zoom, and it is. But we still have a lot of people. We're still going, and it's been, I think, a very, very positive thing for a lot of our students, I hope, and some of our staff and faculty as well. So that's our Mindful Mondays, 2 minutes of Zen, little guided meditation that we have. And I think I'm probably close on time. So if anybody, or turn over to Jill, if we're going to open up for questions, or if he has any.
Yeah. Great, Chad. Yeah, that's perfect timing. We got a few questions via the chat, and I'll go ahead and start with those. And then if anyone else wants to raise your hand, please feel free, or add something to the chat. Larry Krieger had a question for you, Chad. He actually had two. One is, would you think about emailing that list of topics or posting it
Sure.
maybe somewhere? And then his question is, when you promote an event as a meditation, if you've done that, versus the science-based chat, how many students come? What's been the way that has played out?
So based on something that Scott Rogers has been doing for many years, I think many of you are familiar with Scott, kind of the pioneer of all this. I know he was doing a meditation and had students come in, I believe it was Monday mornings. And so I originally started that and thought, okay, we'll have some students come in to meditate. And that was about 8 to 10 students possibly at most. And I thought, okay, well, this isn't really, getting the appeal that we want. So then I started, the 2 minutes of Zen. And, my criminal law class, will have 85 or 90 students. So when I'm doing a 2 minutes of Zen there, it gives it to a wider audience that can kind of come in. So then when I started promoting the 2 minutes of Zen with the guided meditation, the numbers dramatically increased. So it was a very small number with just the meditation, but 2 minutes of Zen has kind of gotten around the school. And I think, again, the neuroscience is appealing to a lot of the students. And yes, I can send something for sure.
Go ahead. Yeah, so the related question was from Margaret Lee, and she asked, what time of day do you do the sessions?
So we do it at 12:15, which is our lunch period. Our lunch period is 12:15 to 1:30. just because of everyone's schedules. And so that seems to be a good time. There are occasionally student meetings where people have to miss, but for the most part, that's a clear time on Mondays. There's a lot of student meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that it seems to work the best for us.
Yeah, makes sense. And Jordana has her hand up as well.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to jump in on a logistical point. Chad, if you send me that list, all of the recordings of these sessions will be posted afterwards, and we can also post any on the Double ALS Balance Action website, and we can also post accompanying resources. So to all of our presenters, if you have any accompanying resources, if you send them to me, I can make sure they're posted, and then everyone who's interested in finding them will send out the link so that you can access them along with the recording afterwards. And I'm also excited to see the list. So thank you, Chad.
Sure thing.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chad. That was great. Lots of ideas that I'm hoping to maybe steal in the coming months. So thank you so much for sharing. Next up, we have my colleague at our sister school here at Penn State. Penn State is one of those institutions that has 2 law schools. And at the Dickinson School of Law is my colleague, Julie Cullings. She is their Assistant Director of Student Services at Penn State Dickinson Law. And she will be talking about the Wednesday morning wellness walks, which I'm super excited to hear more about.
Thank you so much, Jill. And I actually do have a few slides, so I'm going to go ahead and share those now. Let's see here. All right, can everyone see those all right? Okay, super. All right, so yes, Wednesday morning wellness walks is an initiative that we started here in the fall at Penn State Dickinson Law. So why walking? Well, as you all are probably already aware, walking has a number of wonderful health benefits. First, it's physical movement, which we are always trying to encourage our students to do. It's also low impact, so it's good for a wide variety of people. It's an outside activity, which is always great to get our folks outside and in the natural environment, great for mental health to kind of clear their minds. And it's also wonderful for social connection because, walking is one of those activities you can actually talk and walk at the same time, unlike some other things where, you may not be able to do that. From a logistics perspective, it's wonderful for organizing because there's no equipment necessary, and it can be organized very quickly and with a minimal number of staff or volunteers. So with our walks, we had a number of goals, and then we encountered some challenges as well that we had to sort of think through. So for the goals of our activity, we of course wanted to promote physical activity and social connection among our students, faculty, and staff. So with the pandemic happening, I think our folks were really starved for that social connection aspect. Some of our folks were completely remote. Others were in a hybrid sort of situation. People were not really connecting as much as they would in a normal environment. So we wanted to find something that folks could do where they could still get those physical wellness benefits and connect with our community. And so that goes along with the second goal, which was to engage all constituencies of our Dickinson Law community, so including the faculty and staff. We also wanted to keep it easy to organize. We're all juggling so much during this pandemic. The last thing we want to do is add more to people's plates. So we wanted to keep it simple. And of course, low cost. Low cost is always important. With challenges, of course, busy schedules. The class schedule just as a whole was very complex. So trying to work around that and finding a time where we could really maximize our pool of participants, because we did have less folks on campus. So we really wanted to try and get attendance, maximized as much as possible. And we were working with less folks because, some, like I said, were completely remote. And then, of course, we had social distancing to keep in mind throughout. So, we were limited in our numbers of what we could really do to keep things safe. So we had to keep that in mind throughout the process. And then finally, make walks exciting. So, walks are wonderful, they are great, but are they exciting? Not all the time, right? So we had to really put our thinking caps on about how can we get people to want to get out of bed in the morning and come to this group walk. We've tried walks in the past and they weren't always successful. They weren't always well attended. So we had to sort of think through how we could make it different this time. So in terms of our formula for success, we kept it short. 30 minutes or less is what we aim to do with our walks. We targeted a class-free window. So in our spring semester, our class-free window was 8:30 to 9 a.m. on Wednesdays, so hence the Wednesday morning wellness walks. In the fall, that window was the same time, but it was actually on Thursdays, so they were Thursday morning wellness walks in the fall. We did keep our groups at 10 or less participants due to social distancing. We did ask folks to keep distance of 6 feet between each other, and we did have folks stay masked while not eating or drinking. And then we did hold 3 walks in the fall and 3 walks in the spring. We wanted to try and get that frequency just about right. We didn't want them so often that it sort of became like a burden to have something to have to do all the time, but we wanted them spaced out enough so people could look forward to the next one. So in terms of the making walks exciting piece, this is what I sort of tool our secret sauce and trying to get people to actually come out to the walks. So the first thing, which I'm sure you all are already aware, but refreshments are big for getting folks to your events, right? So coffee and prepackaged snacks were what we offered to anyone who wanted to attend the walks. They were completely free of charge to students. It was minimal cost for us in the student services office to buy some snacks. And our facilities team was really wonderful. They would set out, a table of all these items at about 8:15, about 15 minutes before the walk would begin. Folks would meet up at the spot, which was right outside our building, grab something, and then the walk would leave at 8:30. Probably the biggest piece of how we were able to get folks to come out for these walks was our faculty or staff walk leader. And I sort of kind of highlighted it like our special guest host, celebrity guest host, for lack of a better term. But it was really, we recruited our faculty and staff, the folks that students really wanted to see and engage with outside the classroom. And our community is so great here. They were eager to step up and lead these walks. So it was a great opportunity for them, for faculty and staff, and also for students to engage with each other outside of the learning space, and in this time of the pandemic when people were having even less opportunities to get to know one another, this really worked well. And we saw, that folks were really excited about that connection piece. And then we kept it simple. These faculty and staff leaders, they were volunteering. They were doing this because, we asked them to do it. And like I said, folks' plates are full. So what I went ahead and did is I plotted a path, and that's the photo you see there on Google Maps. And it was about a 30-minute walk nearby our campus. Told them, they are free to take this and follow this route. You don't have to even think about it. Just start walking. And if you want to go a different way, that's totally fine too, up to you. And then finally, we had a student leader that was involved. We do have a wellness committee here at Dickinson Law, and our student wellness rep was, serving in this sort of role. So she was instrumental in really, sort of gathering peer participation for this, really just trying to get students out for it. Finding out which faculty and staff they really wanted to have on these walks. And that was really helpful for me as the recruiter. And that person also served as a support to the walk leader. So, that person, the faculty staff person, wasn't totally alone on these walks. The student was there to help guide. And so the outcomes for our wellness walks were wonderful. We had walk participation at or around capacity for each of our walks, which, like I said, was about 10 folks. We had wonderful positive student feedback. Like I said, they really enjoyed the opportunity to connect with faculty outside the classroom. And they did recognize the benefits, the health benefits of the walking. I mean, that was one of the pieces that was very important in our goals for this effort. And they would say, oh gosh, I really didn't want to get up and come to this walk at 8:30. Like I thought about it and I still did because, Heather told me I should come. And then, you know what, I feel really a lot better now that I'm up and moving and I had my coffee and it was really great. So, sometimes it's hard getting them there, but then once they're there, they really appreciated that. And then finally, faculty and staff, they were coming up to me after our walks were over and they were saying, do you have any more walks? Like, I would love to sign up for another walk. I said, well, we're done for this year, but I have a list going for next year. I'm happy to reach out to you. And so I already have a list going for next year of volunteers, because that positive word of mouth was really spreading amongst the faculty of saying, how wonderful it was to connect with folks and how great. So now we're going to continue to do them next academic year, even in a pandemic, non-pandemic environment, who really knows, right? So that is Wednesday morning wellness walks.
Julie, that's fantastic. I'm sure I'm not the only one who wants to steal that idea too. And that's what we're all about here. There's a comment in the chat that's from Anna Klein saying that they had done it at her school and that they borrowed someone's dog and the students enjoyed having a puppy along on the walk, which I think is a really cool idea too. As I'm listening to my own dog pace around the house while he's listening to me talk. There was a question that came in by private chat, and I want to make sure I don't overlook this. Oh, this is, I'll keep you anonymized in case you sent it privately for that reason. The person was asking, were the walks right before classes began for the day?
Yes, I think there was a classes that began at 9:30. So there was a little buffer in case the walks went a little over. So obviously, yeah, some folks who had a 9:30 class, that was like perfect timing for them to get up and, good incentive for them to join the walk.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Other questions? I'm seeing lots of good comments in the chat. And, so Larry has a question. And then there's another question from Katie Beck. Larry's question is, how do you feel now about more people? Do you think you could there be additional capacity?
Yeah, I think we did limit due to our safety guidelines with COVID. That'll be dependent on our university guidelines going into the fall, I'm sure. But I think if we were able to offer it up more, I would be open to adding more people. The one piece is, of course, it is always nice to have a smaller group, right? There's more opportunity for, more intimate connection and things. But I think I would open it up maybe five-ish, 10 people more. It's hard because we have a small student body here. So, it's at a certain point, like, I don't know that us here would get, ever get like 25 people to go on this walk. So, but yeah, definitely we could definitely stand to add a few more.
Julie, a couple of other questions that have come in. One is, did you ask people to register in advance for the walk, and maybe explain how you did that? Did you use a Google Doc or?
Sure. Yeah, we did ask people to register in advance, just because we really wanted to try and be tight with our numbers given the safety guidelines and such. And of course, we wanted to know how many people to expect. So we have a Sign Up Genius account that we were asking people to sign up through there.
That's great. Let's see. Dina Bauman asked, how might you include students who have mobility issues? And then I love the way crowdsourcing works in these Zoom chats. There was a suggestion from Heather Stout, who said, Dina, you could plan out an accessible route. I don't know if you had any experience with that, Julie, and how you were accommodating in that sense.
Yeah, that's a great point. It hasn't come up here to date, but I think what I would do probably in that instance is, if someone came to me, I would definitely meet with them and see, what what their thoughts would be or what would be comfortable for them, and maybe we could work together to find a solution that would be inclusive for everyone who wanted to join in.
The one thought I had, adding on to that, is that a disability law expert on the faculty or staff, or whomever handles disability accommodations, would probably be great partners at larger schools. You're probably that person on
Our team, yes.
And then Kay says we had a similar program 2 years ago with faculty leading walks, and some of the walks had themes. And then one of them was a faculty member leading a disability awareness walk through campus.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And before we pivot, I want to make sure this last question, there was a question that I skipped that I want to get to, which was, how did you advertise to students?
Yeah, so we have daily announcements that go out via email to all of our students. So we primarily relied on those to announce when they were coming up and the sign up link. We also have class Facebook groups that we maintain here. So I would post periodically on those. And then, like I said, our student leader was really the force behind getting most of the signups. I mean, that was literally her job, was to go out and get people to sign up. And she was awesome at it. So,
student ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
Allison, you've had your hand up.
Hi. So I think this is a great idea, and we had something on a similar route, but it wasn't walking specifically. It was actually cooking based. So we had faculty lead it once a month, and the faculty would choose their own recipe. Then they would talk through it. So instead of it being in person, we had it over Zoom, and it's been a really big hit with students as well. And another thing, we bought the ingredients for the first 20 students who registered. So it was kind of like a HelloFresh or a Blue Apron type of situation, that the first 20 students who registered to cook with this professor, we gave them a bag to take home with them. And then on a Sunday, everyone joined in, and a lot of people had their cameras on so that you could see into everyone's kitchen, and you could cook along with the professor for the students to just go through it and talk about eating healthy, or just activities they do in their free time, or the professors talked about their family. So it's on the same idea. So if other people want ideas, it doesn't have to be necessarily with walking, but now I'm going to take walking and start adding that into my plans too.
Oh, I love it. I'm anything that involves food. Sign. It's gonna get us there. Also in the chat, there was a great suggestion from Susan Landrum about inclusivity and advertising events like this with accessibility concerns kind of baked into the invitation and the sign up process, which I think is a really, really great idea. Any other comments that you want to make, Julie, in closing before we move on?
I don't think so. Just thank you all for the opportunity to share with you today.
Well, thank you for sharing. I'm so delighted to see how innovative y'all are being down the road at Dickinson, and it's really great for the students and the community. So our last presenter today is Laura Ferrari, and Laura is the Dean of Students at Suffolk in Boston, Suffolk University Law School, and she will be talking about their chill zone.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you. Great to see some colleagues and some names and faces I haven't seen in a long time. So hi, virtually. And I'm one of those people that still has graduation to overcome. So I am, forgive me, I'm going to try and get through this without the phone ringing, or God help me, somebody coming in as we stuff bags right now for Saturday and Sunday, 2 years worth of graduation. So bear with me. But I wanted to share my screen, show you a little presentation. Hopefully you all are seeing something that says chill zone. I didn't put up something else. Okay, good. So Suffolk Law Chill Zone is a wellness initiative that we deliberately did not call a wellness initiative. And I'll explain that in a minute. But get my things going. So the Chill Zone is currently an online area, space where students and faculty have come together to do non-law and fun activities. And this was really born out of where we were this winter. Things were dark for all of us, right? And, we're in Boston, so we also have the normal winter weather, but with everything with the pandemic, people were feeling pretty low. There was a lot of isolation. There was fading interest in even just attending the usual panels, deteriorating well-being, even, away from things that we've already experienced, but things just getting worse, and just waning attendance at our usual wellness events, which are wonderful in their own right. But we're finding, it was harder and harder to attract students who weren't sort of, in a sense of preaching to the choir kind of model of those events. So we thought in my office, all right, it's time for some fun, and it's time to start communicating that fun is okay in law school. And we also thought about, like, how are we going to appeal to the widest kind of part of the student population? And oftentimes, wellness terms, stress management, things like that, you start calling events that, and you lose sort of a population in that. For those of us who've done these events, that they're probably familiar with that. So we decided to focus on exercise, kind of lifestyle classes, outdoor activities as part of this packaged program called the Chill Zone. Part of what we used was some experience we had with what we call the Suffolk Law Sports Lounge. And my picture on this particular slide is our mascot in a shirt that we would give out at these were, this is before pandemic, of course, but Suffolk Law sports lounges were built around kind of a culture here at Suffolk, very sports minded. We're very Boston, right? So we care a lot about our sports. And so we would have events around big sporting times. And the most important one every year was the Red Sox opening day. And one year we had messed up the advertising. So only like a couple little things went out. We realized that, but yet hundreds showed up. And it was people that, students and faculty, frankly, that don't usually come to this stuff. And it was, maybe the smell of popcorn, maybe, we did have beer, we did have chicken fingers, things like that. But we had people that just don't usually show up. And we realized that was kind of a great way to sneak in some stuff. So the next year we added a quote trivia contest to this. And instead of really trivia, we started kind of infusing during commercial breaks, resources. So, and you get your Suffolk Law Sports Lounge t-shirt. If you could answer a question about the counseling center or about our local lawyer assistance program, things like that. So we kind of snuck in that while students were there on the preface of celebrating the Red Sox and having a good time. And we felt like we were reaching a population we don't normally reach with our wellness initiatives. So back to the Chill Zone and what we put together for this year in this virtual space. We had a number of events and ongoing classes. We had exercise classes. We hired a local gym. They were having trouble, finding things to do with their business in the pandemic, and we're putting out these virtual classes. So we hired one specifically for Suffolk. That's the picture there of the HIIT, I guess, HIIT. I don't know, it's kickboxing, but that was extremely popular. One morning I checked in and it was like 8 a.m. There were 19 students kicking things and going along, and that was great. We had another law student conduct a series of bar classes, which I don't even know what that is, but it was popular. and then a member of our Dean Suite, one of the staff members, did a series of yoga classes. We also had cooking classes, and there's a picture up there. I didn't know if he'd give me permission or not, but that's actually one of our academic support professors who is honestly, he was like the best celebrity chef ever. He was fun and funny, and we had students dialing in to watch him, and I was there, and some of us having a good old time on a gloomy Saturday afternoon, learning how to spatchcock a chicken is what it's called. And he was fun, and it was just another fun way to connect with students. We had a student conduct an ASL class, and then another student who conducted a book club. in this virtual space. We put out hiking and walking trail info, but unlike Julie, we didn't actually put together something. So I was really interested to hear that and thinking about that going forward. We had links to virtual museum tours. And then we also had movies within this space. We used our school's Canopy streaming service, which is a streaming service the law library has, and many of your schools might have that. It's really more of academic movies and things, but there were some kind of popular movies. And so we streamed Moonlight and Lady Bird on our platform. Students could drop in and watch that at any time. They didn't need to have Netflix, so it didn't cost anything for them. We had raffles off and on, and then our kind of capstone event was a big trivia night where we had a dean's team go against a library team, go against a couple student teams and a couple of alumni teams. And that was a lot of fun. So our virtual circumstances, obviously this year forced this all online, and we had to we wanted to do this. So our quick and easy way of building this was to actually use our learning management system at the school. We use Blackboard here at Suffolk, and that we essentially created one giant class where every student in the law school was a member. And if you've used a learning management system before, you can post things, you can send out emails. It was the place where we had the Zoom links to things, had the schedules. You would go into this system and see, oh, I could do a movie, or I could do this, or I have Professor X's cooking class this afternoon, that sort of thing. It sort of drove people to this area. And then we could also post resources and things in there if we wanted to. At the outset, we surveyed the students. We got about, I think it was 176 responses about what they'd want. And I have it's up there. It may not be too clear, but by far yoga was the top, but then Zumba, which we didn't pull off, but we had those boxing classes were of interest. The cooking classes, all of that stuff, we kind of got a sense of what the students wanted. And that's also where the sign language idea came from. A student had suggested that. So we put that out in the survey and lots of people were interested in it. And so that helped us. We, kind of a theme I'm picking up from Julie and Chad too, is it's important to use those student influencers to get, to get the word out. So we're one thing, but if you can get students who other students listen to or think, are going to do that really helped and really helped us. In particular, this year was some law review students and the sports law students and some of the SBA students that got the word out, and that snowballed the interest. The faculty, tapping into the faculty talent and interest in doing classes and fun things. I've just kind of scratched the surface, but we had folks wanting to do a photography class. Our dean wanted to teach a magic class. People want to do stuff like that, and on a gloomy Saturday afternoon in March, it's fun for people. And and now that we've developed this online capability, I can really see that we'll keep that up even in our virtual circumstance, just so we can easily do a Saturday afternoon event. But one of our biggest surprises about how much of a resource they were was our law librarians, and they were wonderful. And I would encourage you all, if you ever want to do something like this, that the law librarians were great at resources. They're the ones that came up with that movie service. Well, I didn't know that. And they're like, oh, we have these movies, we can show people through this. So they had some great ideas and helped us, build out the content. From a budgetary and cost perspective, we were lucky enough to get a $5,000 a pool of money through our university's strategic plan, which does include initiatives around wellness and extracurricular and more exercise and activities. So we used, and that went to the deans of students' offices in our university. So we had a $5,000 budget, which helped. Obviously, that's how we paid for the HIT class and some of the things like the trivia night and the raffle items. But the reality is this was all, mainly done at no cost by virtue of people volunteering their time. Again, the different students with their different hidden talents and the faculty. One of the things I hinted at this earlier is that we kept this very deliberately non-law. So there was sometimes people wanted to add, oh, do this. Can we advertise our panel on this, the constitutional law topic or whatever? And we just said, no, we want this to be a no law school kind of space for law school. So that this was the fun place. This was, where you could hang out and not kind of have that over your head or thinking, taking up the space. But we also very deliberately avoided any terms like this was a stress management or a well-being or wellness initiative. Again, our sense and our experience is that can just kind of set up a barrier for a lot of the students to come in and do something and start participating in things like this engagement and community events that are ultimately actually our wellness, but we just don't need to tell them that. And so that's why I have this graphic of my friend with his vegetables, because it's, it's almost like, getting our students to start eating their vegetables, maybe without knowing it. So going forward, we're going to take a look at what worked, what didn't, what programs really, were popular, which weren't so much. Thinking about how we're going to bring this to the in-person world as we all come out of this, and how can we, take lessons learned from the benefits of virtual world. And I suspect what this will be is that it will be somewhat of a hybrid. It won't be just this all online space, but we are an urban campus. We don't have a lot of space. So, these kind of virtual gym classes will probably continue, because I don't know where I'd put them if we were in person anyhow. We will continue to look to more active student leader input. I could see, though, we are going to move towards some more intramural sports. We have a pretty robust intramural sports club culture at the law school already, with a hockey club, a basketball club, a softball club, ski club, all those things. And so I think if we can get some competition, between clubs and some fun stuff like that, that will engage more students. More of those student lounge, and then the chess boards. That was, we had those out before the pandemic, and I think we could maybe start like a little chess competition or something like that, and play off of the Queen's Gambit, if you will. But in any event, it's going to continue to be a space where, whether it's virtual or in real life, where the programming is aimed at the well-being that feels interesting and accessible to as many students, a wide variety of students, having them eat their vegetables in this context. So I'm happy to answer questions or share more either here, or my email address is there if you ever want to chat more about that, but after graduation, please. So that's.
Well, that was great. You made it through with no interruptions on the day before, or a couple of days before commencement. I'm so impressed. We just finished ours on Saturday.
Good for you. It's a nice. I'm going to be glad to be there.
You will be here soon. Yes, you'll go through it. Oh gosh, that was, as Renette said in the chat, brilliant. Taking this hybrid and remote situation and making it, finding a silver lining. I think this is such a stellar example of that. Really, really impressive. Someone asked if you could share your email in the chat, Laura.
Of course.
And tons of just kudos and positive reinforcement about what a great idea this is. We have just about 5 minutes left. I think we'll try to end a minute or two early so folks have time to transition to their next thing, whatever that might be. For some on the East Coast, you may be transitioning into the end of your day. And it's Marjorie shaking her head no. Yeah, that doesn't apply to me either, but it might apply to some. And so if anyone has questions or comments for any of the presenters, in addition to what we've already covered, certainly feel free to unmute. We don't have a queue right now. You can also add things to the chat if you would like. We've had a really robust discussion today, and I really just want to thank all of our presenters for sharing these three completely unique and yet interrelated and overlapping pieces of programming. Really just tremendous. And I think this bodes well for our summer series. Really looking forward to that and hoping that you can all join us again as we get together a few more times this summer to share some more ideas. I believe our next one is June 3rd.
3rd, yeah. And they're all at 4:00 Eastern, so that part's easy to remember, though the days of the week changes sometimes.
Colin.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for this. I thought it was fantastic. I'm just a question for the registration issue. I registered for all of them a while back. Are those no longer,
So if you
Good.
if you were registered when we first sent out the save the date, every single registration was correct initially except for June 3rd. But if you registered for June 3rd before a couple of days ago, then you should have received an email with a new link saying we've changed the link. But if you haven't registered yet, then, oh, I've just been confirmation. Colin, you're all set. You have a great link. If you haven't registered yet, be sure to use the link that I pasted in the chat above, not the one from the initial save the date email.
thank you.
And if any of you have any questions of whether you're registered, you can just email me and I will let you know.
Wonderful. It looks like we have come up pretty close against the end of our time together, and that we have also made it through all of our questions that were in the queue. So on behalf of the balance section, let me just thank everyone for participating. It was such an energetic and enjoyable hour. I really thank everyone for being here, and hope that you can join us again this summer or in the future at another balance section event. And as always, stay well.
Thank you all.